Hello, it's that time again. Get up, get off the couch, tackle your own to-do list. Stay tuned. Hello, Hamilton. Welcome to the Just Ask Bob show. I am your host, Bob Assadourian, and yet we kick it off with another viewer's email. Hello, Bob. I've been obtaining estimates and having my chimney tuck pointed, and the cost is just way too expensive. Bob, can you do a show on chimneys? And Bob, what options do I have with respect to getting rid of my chimney permanently without affecting my gas appliances that are venting? This is from Mike in Ancaster, Ontario. Well, Mike, thank you for the email. Every show, the basis is from the viewer's email. That's very important, Hamilton. We want to make sure, keep sending us your emails. And for those of you that don't use email, call in your questions. Not all of them, but some of them may be answered on this very show. Now, if we take a moment to talk about chimneys, let me start with my 3 R's. I've coined this phrase for many years now. Repair it, rebuild it, or rid yourself of it. Now, if we compare that to economics, repairing the chimney would be tuck pointing it. So structurally, the chimney must be sound. There can't really be that many issues with it. And then the simplest, most economical way to repair it is called tuck pointing. Tuck pointing is the masonry art of refilling or replenishing the horizontal and vertical joints within the chimney. Now, the second R, rebuilding it. There are times when the chimney's too far gone. So now it's going to cost you a lot of money because you have to take down the damaged brick, take it to a transfer station, dispose of it, purchase new bricks, and build it. So that's why for the homeowners out there, always review your chimney in early fall before the winter. If you have missing joints, tend to it immediately because it will cost you so much more money the next spring or summer because that gap or that cavity within the joint, snow, water, freezing rain will accumulate. When the temperature drops, it'll expand. That's how the brick faces start to break off. The technical term is called spalding. That's where the actual face or a small skin of the face, a slice of it, falls off. Now, the final R, rid yourself of it. The last maybe 15, 20 years in new home construction, chimneys do not exist. Masonry chimneys, they're not being built. The main reason for this is advances in venting for natural gas products. Some time ago, the only way to vent was vertical, right up through a single or two-story home and out the roof. That was how the furnace, fireplace, and the hot water tanks were vented. Now, if you follow on your screen now, we'll give you an example. The first photograph now, we have two white plastic pipes exiting the home. And if you really focus just below to the right in the middle, there's a black pipe exiting as well. Now, for high efficiency furnaces, I would believe one of these two pipes is the intake and the other one's expelling the gases. And the black one possibly is for the hot water tank. Now, the next picture on your screen, this could be either or. I mean, some type of gas appliance is venting through here. So again, before this existed, you had to have a chimney. Everything would vent vertically up through the entire home, whether one or two story. Now, the third one's pretty straightforward. This is the future of fireplaces. Direct vent, it's been out for some time now. The reason it says hot with the arrow is keep your fingers away from the top. So you see the chimney is obsolete, so to speak. However, many Hamilton homeowners still may have a wood-burning unit. If you have a wood-burning fireplace, there is no direct vent. You have to have a chimney. If you have the most affordable of hot water tanks, then you still have the need for a chimney because those vent vertical. I can think of a job some time ago where the chimney was just in terrible condition. It was going to be about $6,000 or $8,000 to have the chimney taken down and rebuilt. This was a monster on a seriously sloped roof. So again, you're working at great heights, there's tie-off procedures, the work's very expensive. Now the homeowner was paying just under $11 a month for the rental. So I asked her to call her utility, find out how much it would cost for a direct vent hot water tank. I believe the cost was $12 and change a month. So she simply had the utility pull out the old style hot water tank, bring in the new one. Now the new hot water tank though, to direct vent, it has an electric motor. So keep in mind though, depending how much you're using the hot water, there is going to be a small increase to your hydro bill. But now in her case, we were able to rid her of her chimney. We basically take the chimney down to the roof line, do some structural wood framing in there to get some support. We put in plywood, a band of ice and water shield, weave in the shingles. If it's done right, you'll never know there was a chimney. So again, there's a lot of options. Find a contractor that's patient. Find a contractor you could trust. He should be able to explore all these options with you. Or in the case of a DIY project, figure it out yourself, research, visit some of Hamilton's gas fireplace stores, or talk to your utility with respect to if you're renting the hot water tank or if you're renting the furnace. Remember, it's all about knowledge. You have the knowledge, you have the motivation, do it yourself. Lack of motivation or confidence, knowledge is still important, you hire a contractor. Now what we're going to do now is go over the required tools for the job, and then we're going to put up on the screen some footage from one of our past job sites. Now for this particular chimney, just about everything we need is here. I'm going to show you the tools to use. It was a tuck pointing job. We also installed a cap because the cap was missing on this chimney. Now one tool you're going to need, we call this a masonry hammer. Very important. It's not a carpenter's hammer. It's not a sledgehammer. If you notice the end, it's a very sharp tip at the end. This is used for breaking off the ends of the brick. Next we have a trowel, mid-sized trowel. Now obviously our helper didn't clean this one up too well after our last job, but it is important to clean these off before the mortar dries, while it's still wet. We also have a baby version. Sometimes depending where you're working or depending what the job entails, these trowels come in a lot of different sizes. Now this one's a pointing slick. This is equally important. As we describe in the upcoming footage, or as we show you, there's two ways to apply the mortar. You can either use a slick, but you need some experience, or you're going to be dropping more than you're applying. The old school method, or more of a DIY method, you can use your fingers to apply the mortar, but keep it neat. Next we have a striking chisel, another very important tool to have in your arsenal. Now if you can see the way this works, you've got the hand grip, you've got the plastic on top to protect, and you've got the striker. That's what protects you from getting hit. And of course we've got a regular putty knife. There are certain circumstances where this will help. And we've got our small mudding pan. This one's obviously very beat up. This used to be pristine and we would use it on our drywall projects. Once it gets beaten up or not cleaned out often enough and stained, we use it for our masonry work. Just to give you an example now, with a mortar mix, I'm not going to worry about at this point because on the upcoming footage, you're going to see us mix the mortar mix. Now, this is one of those jobs where the labor is what's going to kill you. These tools I've just shown you, less than $50 for all the tools. Bag of mortar mix, $5.99. Think about it now. Your contractor's ideally going to be charging you possibly 80 to 90% labor. Why? Because you can't do it. He's charging you the labor because he's got to get tied off, he's got to work at great heights, potentially, and because he's a trained professional. Speaking of trained professionals, our city does have a master building repair license. Absolutely critical. Before you hire anybody to work on your home, make sure they're the recipient of a master building repair license. And don't just take their word for it. Have them actually show you the license. With the license comes a police check automatically. With the license comes $2 million liability insurance and somebody that is noted on the city books. So if this contractor causes you grief, runs with your deposit, you have somewhere a body, an entity with the municipality to go and complain to. Now, final item I want to show you is the tie or the roofing harness. Now, this is a body harness, not a roofing harness. You're going to be wearing this when you're on the roof. Now, you're going to see on the show about how uncomfortable this is to wear. Bob's not happy wearing these. He doesn't enjoy those moments. I'm most happiest working flat on the ground. These roof jobs kill every joint in my body, but it is critical that you're tied off. You're going to see in the show, we very clearly show you where to attach this. Now, just a little rub here at new home builders. If you're watching, every new home in Ontario should come with a tie-off anchor already on the roof. They don't do that to builders. So in this case, we had to install the anchor into the roof. That's your lifeline. That's your safety point. Now, you can pick these up at a safety store in Hamilton. Again, I really want the viewers to understand, if you're going to tackle this project yourself, wear the harness, tie yourself off, work safe, and be comfortable at heights. If you're not, called in a licensed professional. I don't care who it is, as long as they're licensed. This is our tie-off point here. You want to secure this using structural screws, and believe it or not, you're going to fill in every single hole and make certain to apply caulking to them. This will become a permanent part of the roof structure. Lots of screws to fill in. This provides a beautiful hook. This is what you're going to be connected to, your lifeline, so to speak. I'm going to keep firing in these screws. Up next, we're going to start mixing mortar. This is a simple product. It's only about $4 a bag. If you want to zoom in here, regular mortar mix by Quikrete. I like this stuff. It's very good. Now, one of the reasons I want you to take note that it's less than $5 essentially, depending where you buy it. With these jobs, the labor can typically be worth 90% of the cost of the job, whereas not even 10% to some of the materials. So again, for those at home, when you cut the crooked and overcharging contractor out of the equation, reinvest that money back into yourself, back into your home. Now, you're going to need the mortar mix, obviously. You're going to need a drill with a paddle blade on the end, cordless hopefully, so you don't get yourselves tangled. We've wet the pail with a little bit of water. Now, this can be messy. We'll add a little more water. And then we start spinning. You want to get your boots around it to straddle it. You want to start slow so it doesn't splash up. Now you see, if you want to zoom in there, we've got a valley in the center. So you want to keep it like that and keep adding your water. There's a lot of different ways to mix it. We don't want soup. You do not want soup consistency. We actually want it on the thicker side to do the pointing. That's the masonry trade of filling in the vertical and horizontal joints in the brickwork. This doesn't take long. You want the mortar to basically be able to hold its own shape. It can be squeezed. It can be inserted either with your fingers or preferably with a metal slick into the joints. See, it holds its own shape. I'm going to keep spinning this up. Up next, we're going to be filling in the joints, otherwise known as tuck pointing. And we've got Mr. Andy Garcia on the tools, one of Triple R's finest. First thing, Andy, I'm just going to show the viewers how you're safely tied off. If you want to focus in here at home to what Andy's wearing, he's got what's called a roofer's harness. That's the hook at the back, the tie-off point. This is the rope. And at the very beginning of the show, we showed you how to install this. Now, I wasn't kidding when I said every single hole must be filled in. These are Simpson strong tie screws. All of them have to be caulked with a special black polyurethane caulking. That's our chimney cap, which we'll be installing after break. Let's give the homeowners a little tutorial on the chiseling. How about that nice vertical joint right there? Now what Andy's gonna do is pull out the weakened joint. Now with pointing, it's all about the penetration. If you don't have it, you have nothing. It's not about slight little thin fills. You want the fresh mortar to actually fill the cavity by at least 1/2 inch, preferably 3/4. See how Andy's cleaning out the debris? Andy's been with us a little over 6 years. We've worked on hundreds and hundreds of chimneys throughout Hamilton. Now on an extremely, extremely hot day, it wouldn't be a bad idea to pre-fill the joints with water, have a spray bottle handy. The reason being, if it's too hot in there, the mortar will dry up too quickly. It won't have a chance to wet dry or to wet cure, so to speak. We did dampen this prior to the break. That tool Andy's using is the slick. Well, at this moment it's his finger, but he's got the slick there as well. A lot of different ways to fill in the mortar. Some people just use their fingers, sometimes a combination of the slick, whatever works for you, but you got to keep it clean. The mortar will permanently stain the brickwork. There he goes, look at that, like a pro. The horizontal joints are a little easier than the vertical. Homeowners often ask me, Bob, why are the brick joints perfect on our home's brick walls, and yet the chimney seems to need tuck pointing every few seasons or every few years? One way to look at it is the chimney's like a sore thumb sticking up through the roof. There's heat going through the center of the chimney, and then on the exterior side it could be 25, 30 below zero in the dead of winter. So the chimney goes through a lot of extremes. It's not tucked under a roof's edge like your brick walls are. So for that reason, it does need continuous maintenance, continuous tuck pointing. There's also aluminum flashing at the base of every chimney, the brown metal flashing. The caulking will have to be inspected and addressed at times, or else you'll end up with a roof leak. This is very tedious work because most often you're up on a roof, you have to be tied off, you have to mix the mortar on the ground and then carry it up a ladder. Very expensive projects. For those of you at home, only do it if you're completely comfortable working at heights. See, now for the vertical joint, Andy's using his fingers. Now, can you imagine if the mortar was mixed soupy? That wouldn't work out too well. So now what he's doing is he's packing it down, combination of his finger and the slick. That's a deep cavity between those two bricks there. Very deep cavity. If all this mortar were to disappear, one gust of wind and the chimney's toppled. Now you'll notice there is a difference in the look and the texture when you visually look at the mortar. Back in the day, mortar mix had small grit in it, small granules of stone. That doesn't exist anymore. So I really think, it hasn't improved. Back in the day, mortar mix was stronger. As with a lot of building products, it's about cheapening everything down. Now to make the job look nice, and he's just styling it a little bit using his finger. But again, once the mortar's hardened for a couple of hours, we use a brush, and you want to make sure to brush it to have a nice, consistent looking, finished look to it. Now as you can see, this chimney needs a lot of work. This is just one side. Let me take a moment to show you the other side. Now if you really pay attention to this chimney, the top 10 courses at some point have been relaid. So again, because of the height, it seems to be the top of the chimneys need more work than the bottom. However, in this case, the bottom bricks are pretty bad. We're going to have to do a lot of pointing here, possibly replace maybe 3 or 4 bricks. And then, of course, another problem is the cap, or the lack thereof. As with any chimney or any brick wall, you can pretty easily wiggle out the top brick because there's nothing holding it in place. Jump down 7 or 8 courses and try to pull a brick out and it'll take you forever. So what we have on site here is a pre-made, prefabricated precast concrete cap. We're going to be installing that next. So what we've done is we've put on a bed of mortar. And as you can see, it's fairly stiff. You want the mortar firm in order to support the weight of the cap. It's heavy. All right, Andy, let's do it. You want to center it as best as you can. And of course, you want to use a level. To you, Andy. As you can see, Andy, give it a couple taps on your side. If you want to focus in on the bubble, it's very important for this to shed water correctly. It must be level. Now level in both directions. Let's check your side. Now if you want to focus on the top joint, we're going to slice away the excess. And then we're going to start filling in here. Show the viewers at home, man, it's a little bit of a fill. You want to have a continuous fill around all 4 sides. Now you don't want to leave the joint recessed. You want to fill in the joint completely. The weight of this will protect the top 2 courses from coming loose. We're going to keep working on the cap. Up next, Bob's top picks and Bob's bewares. Welcome back to the Just Ask Bob show. Very important now to go through some of Bob's top picks and Bob's bewares as they specifically apply to this show. Number 1 top pick is mortar mix. Nothing beats good old-fashioned mortar mix. You'll have to add water and mix it just like we did on the show. Now for a Bob's beware, mortar mix that supposedly comes ready in a caulking tube. Absolute junk. See, this is simply such a convenience factor, but such a scam. I don't know how they packaged it, what kind of preservatives they put in it, but I would never trust using this on your home. Now on the show, you've seen us bolt in the tie-off plate to the roof. The tie-off plate to the roof, it's absolutely critical that you use structural screws. Remember, this tie-off plate is what you're anchoring yourself to. That's your lifeline. So to pull these out, I just want the viewers at home to get a good shot of that. These are Simpsons, they're strong tie, they're rated for structure. So these are going to keep you tied securely to the plate. Now that's a top pick. For a Bob's beware, please don't go grab a regular flooring screw. And believe me, a lot of homeowners would. A flooring screw is for a floor that you stand on. It is not to be used for a structural tie-off because you're trusting your life on it. I wouldn't do that. So it's very important. You have to have some common sense. Common sense is critical when you tackle these projects. For more information or to learn more about us, please visit our website. Largest site on the net, www.justaskbob.com. Again, that's www.justaskbob.com. If you're old school, and Bob sure is, pick up the phone. 289-649-0196. Again, that's 289-649-0196. Thank you, Hamilton. Till the next time.
Bob? Bob who? Welcome to the Just Ask Andy show.